I'm a police officer, and this is the strangest case I've ever worked. Hello, my name is Tim. I've been a police officer for 15 years now, and I've worked on a variety of cases, some problematic, some traumatic, and others quite disturbing. I guess that's why I'm here. I'm always assigned the graveyard cases, the ones that are called in at night, and for that reason, I'm always the one investigating those that are a tad more troubling than your average day-to-day routine cases. I've seen more dead bodies than you can imagine, and yes, it was excruciatingly hard to deal with it at first, but I've learned to come to terms with what I've seen. I've become quite robust, I guess you could say, and when you end up catching the bad guy, the results are rewarding. You can go to sleep knowing that the person will never hurt another human being again, will never cause anyone any more heartache. So yeah, you gotta take the bad with the good. I like to see the positives in the situation, you see, no matter how hard that may be. If I couldn't do that, I wouldn't be able to do my job effectively, and there is nothing I can think of that's worse than that. Nearly all of the cases I've investigated carry some form of normality. They can always be understood to a degree. All the evil bastards I've caught, and everything they've done, you can put their actions, hell, even their justifications into a box and tick it. However, recently, I found that this can't always be the case. You can't always put something into a neat and tidy box. Life apparently isn't programmed that way. Recently, my partner and I were called in to investigate a rather disturbing and peculiar case. I've never seen anything like it, nor do I think I ever will again. It's left me so dismayed, because I can't make sense of it, and that's not how my life usually works. I can't share the specific details pertaining to the case, but I wanted to share the entries from the diary discovered at the scene. The contents are highly troubling, and after some clarification on what could have possibly happened, the case is yet to be solved. Entry 1. I've not been feeling myself lately. At first, I put it down to extreme fatigue, but then when other things started to crop up, I became frightened. I was sure I was dying. It started off with just tiredness, as I said. Then my symptoms started to escalate to a terrifying degree. I started feeling really sick too. Sharp pains assaulted my stomach every time I moved, and I could feel vomit travel up my throat. But when I tried to be sick, nothing came out. My eyes were horrifically bloodshot too. I could see the little red veins so clearly, and I swear at times I could see them move and slither like a serpent. I did the usual shtick. I went to a doctor, explained what was happening to me, and as expected, I was shrugged off. Apparently, it was all just a buildup of anxiety and exhaustion, and what I was seeing wasn't real. According to the professional, my eyes weren't bloodshot, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with my stomach. I was given some anxiety medication and sent on my way, but they didn't help, and the symptoms only proved to worsen. My family and friends shrugged me off too, calling me a hypochondriac. I could hear the irritation that dogged their voices when I called. Pretty soon, they stopped answering my calls altogether. Over the next couple of days, I tried my best to ignore the ailments that plagued my body, my mind. I took pills, but they did nothing to alleviate my anxiety. If anything, it was heightened to extreme levels. I suffered panic attacks, and I often felt like I couldn't breathe. My chest would constrict so tightly, as if my lungs were shrinking, shriveling under immense pressure, a pressure that couldn't be seen nor identified. I started coughing up blood. That in itself was alarming, but it was what I saw in the blood that sent a shiver down my spine. The blood was a deep red, almost black in color, and it bubbled and boiled, hot to the touch. It moved so strangely too, giving me the impression of waves in a disturbed ocean, and I thought I could see something black moving within. I didn't want to touch it. Entry 2. So, I've started waking up with bizarre scratches all over my arms, face and body. I couldn't tell if they were self-inflicted, but I found no blood underneath my fingernails, which indicated that I did it to myself. The scratches were long and deep, inflicted with long fingernails. My fingernails were short. Each morning, I would wake up, and there would be new wounds, and no matter how much I cleaned and bandaged them, they would not stop bleeding. I was convinced I was dying, and it terrified me. I didn't want to die. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I could no longer recognize myself. My skin had turned sallow. It carried a sort of yellowy and ashy hue, like someone had dug me up. If I wasn't dying, then I sure looked it. My hair started to fall out too. I would find clumps of it scattered in my bed. I figured I should probably go to the emergency room. That thought had crossed my mind a few times during all this, but I was too scared to go. But I had become so desperate, so I swallowed my fears and decided to go. I really don't like sick people, though. Entry 3. When I got to the hospital, the first thing I noticed was how deathly quiet it was. It was so silent, it made me feel uncomfortable. The usual hectic bustle that you would expect to see in an emergency room was complete lackluster here. There were no doctors running around, tending to patients, no nurses rushing about with their clipboards and pens. Nothing. There were a few people waiting, though. They sat motionless, staring ahead of them, and, from what I could see, their arms appeared to be entirely bandaged up, like mine. I walked over to the check-in desk, but once again, to my utter surprise, there was no one there. Crestfallen, I walked over to one of the waiting room seats, sat down, and stared at my mutilated hands. I prayed to God that someone would be able to help me here, and I felt somewhat comforted that others were here too, seemingly suffering from the same strange affliction. Hours passed, and no one tended to me. I felt so strange, sick, and on the verge of passing out. I turned my weary head behind me and saw that the other people were all staring straight at me. Freaked out, I got up and groggily walked over to the other side of the room. I wasn't in the mood to speak to anyone, and I'd hoped that my getting up and moving further away would suggest this, and that my air of annoyance would be apparent. I must have passed out because, when I awoke, I saw the people from earlier standing around me. One of them, a man, was sat next to me. He leaned so close to my face that I could feel his nose brush mine. His eyes were murky, almost black. I could feel his breathing on my face as he began to speak to me, whispering almost. "We all have it here. We're all infected," he said, and then he smiled. Entries end. You see, when we were called to the scene, the hospital was empty and there was not a soul here. All we found was blood. So much blood in the diary. We haven't been able to locate its owner, nor the people that were mentioned in the entries. We haven't been able to locate any of the hospital staff either. The whole place was a ghost town. I'm at a complete loss, as are my colleagues. It's just so strange. The whole thing. And you know what else is strange? I've really not been feeling myself lately. Hi everyone, Matt Chatter here. First off, I'd like to thank Reddit user YouShallNotPass121 for allowing me to narrate their story. They have a creepy story subreddit called Writes About All Things. I'll leave a link to their subreddit in the comment section below if you'd like to check out more of their creepy stories. Also, I'd like to thank everyone for the ongoing support that they've given to my channel. I really couldn't be doing this without you guys. and I truly enjoy delivering creepy stories to you all. For those of you who are listening and aren't subscribed, click that subscribe button and join the chatterbox. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for listening, and I'll be sure to hear from you all very, very soon. Bye for now, and remember, when all goes wrong in the night and everything's the matter, you'll be sure to hear of it from the Mad Chatter.